Entitled neighbor demanded I move my car from my own driveway. So a few weeks ago, my new neighbor knocks on my door and asks if I can keep my car somewhere else because it's blocking her view of the street. For context, my driveway is on my property and my car doesn't stick out onto the road at all. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. The next day, she leaves a note on my windshield saying she'll call the HOA if I don't comply. Joke's on her, we don't even have an HOA. A few days later, she actually called the police. They came, looked at my driveway, and told her to stop wasting their time. I swear, some people act like the world was built just to accommodate their eyesight.
Retail changing room. Chaos. I've worked several retail jobs and by far the worst position. Task or assignment is the fitting room. People are crazy, rude, weird, and entitled. One of my favorite ways to teach these people a lesson was when we had to count them in and out of the rooms. As we welcomed them in, we would count the number of items they had and give them a tag with a number on it. Then they would come back and have to hand me the tag and their items. The number of times these people would just leave their hangers or the stuff they didn't want to buy on the floor or the benches of the fitting rooms was ridiculous. I would always very politely send them back and then smiling like I'm stupid as f. I would sit down the items that they were going to purchase, then dump everything that they had left on the floor on top of it while I rehung and counted to make sure they had the same numbers of items leaving as they did. The size of frustration and impatience was so rewarding.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. Hot enough for ya. So this is back when I worked at a Starbucks in Union Square, New York City. Some guy comes up looking very annoyed that he has to interact with a peasant like me, and he orders a latte very hot, 180. So I hand the guy his drink, and he immediately wrinkles his nose and said, "This is not hot enough. I asked for 180 degrees. Now all of the pitchers that we used to steam milk have a thermometer in them, so I know that I indeed steamed it to the correct temperature, but I gladly took the drink back and made him a fresh one. When I went to steam the milk, I made sure it was pretty piping hot, 220 degrees, and smiled politely as he took his first sip. The look on his face was priceless, as he probably scalded his tongue, but thought better of complaining again. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
You need to tie your hair up. So, during the 1970s, my dad worked for the Royal Mail British Postal Service as a postman. Like many men at the time, he had long hair just below his shoulders. His managers had an issue with this and told him he needed to sort his hair out and tie it up if he wasn't going to cut it. Now, my dad is an arsehole, and it came in handy here. He went home that day and told my mom, and she agreed to get up early to tie his hair for him before work. The next day, he went into work with the most delightful pigtails, tied up with some lovely pink ribbons. My dad greeted his manager and said he'd tied his hair up as requested and then went off to do his round. He wore his pigtails for a week until coming back with his hair down after a weekend off and never got shit for it again.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. Entitled Mom yelled at me for not letting her kid blow out my birthday candles. It was my 30th birthday dinner at a nice restaurant, small group, family, and a few friends. There's a family seated next to us with a toddler. When the waiter brings out my cake, everyone sings, and I go to blow out my candles. Suddenly, this mom from the next table says, "Wait, let him help. He loves blowing out candles." Before I can react, her kid tries to reach over and blow out my candles. I instinctively shield the cake and say, "Hey, sorry, this is my birthday." The mom looks offended. "He's just a child. You're an adult, you can share a wish." My mom, God bless her, goes, "Then maybe buy him his own cake." The mom gasped like we'd insulted royalty, grabbed her kid, and left muttering about selfish adults. Everyone at our table just laughed and relit the candles. I wished for patience. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
If you're brand new at work, don't be nasty to your coworkers. I worked at a pharmacy chain a few years ago. The entire crew were nice, fun, respectful, and all that. Then there was Supervisor Mary. Okay, but not the friendliest of people. Then her DIL Susie started working there as a cashier. Susie was Mary on steroids. Pushy, rude, demanding. No one liked her. No one liked dealing with her. So I called the corporate employee line and simply asked, with as innocent a voice as I could muster. I remember in orientation hearing something about family members not being able to work together, particularly when one was a supervisor. And poof, Susie was gone. I'm not sure why I had to do it since they had the same last name. My guess, the manager, Mary's friend, let it slide. Small victory, but it felt good. Still smile about it today.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. HOA president wanted heat. I manage a NYC condo with central AC that once switched to winter mode can't go back to cooling until spring. NYC law requires heat starting October 1st, but October swings from chilly to unseasonably warm, so we usually wait for a real cold stretch before turning it on. Tenants were fine with this for years. One chilly day was better than being unbearably hot for 10. Last year, the board president lost it over a slightly chilly day towards the middle of October. She sent an email demanding we turn on the heating system immediately, and that going forward, the heat must always be on by October 1st. She didn't care if other units would be uncomfortably warm and that she's the board president, and she should be comfortable in her unit. This year, we followed her orders on October 1st, heat on. At the annual meeting, tenants were furious. They wanted to know why a system that had worked for years was suddenly broken. The president started chewing me out for getting her email the previous year, not wanting to deal with her nonsense. I got the green light from my boss to pull up her own email on the projector. Her exact words, her exact demands. She went pale and for the first time ever had nothing to say. She lost her position in the election. Her replacement was very happy we called her out and we renewed our contract for 5 more years.
I tell my friends I'm meal prepping every Sunday, but I'm really just ordering takeout and putting it in containers. They always talk about how productive their Sundays are cooking, cleaning, getting their week together. So I started saying I do meal prep too. Truth is, I just order a bunch of takeout, portion it into containers, and throw out the evidence before they come over. They'll open my fridge, see neat little rows of food, and go, wow, you're so organized. Meanwhile, I'm nodding like, yeah, I totally made that chicken teriyaki myself. Last weekend, I was sitting there playing my prize and eating one of my prepped meals and realized I've been living a double life as a fake healthy person. Not proud, but also kind of proud.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. You left your sandwich under the table? Cool. During university, my friend had co-op terms where he would work at a business in another city for 3 months before going back to school. He had multiple work terms in the same city, and he and 3 other guys would rent the same old house for all their co-op terms, coming back to the same place every time. Another group of guys on alternate work terms would also rent the same house. This house was an absolute pit, run by a slumlord in a very high cost of living city. I don't think the owner ever checked the place between terms. The one year, my friend and his housemates were very pissed off at the mess the previous group of students left. The bathtub was black with grime, the place smelled, and they even left a rotting sandwich under the coffee table. My friend and his housemates decided to leave that sandwich under the table for their entire 3 months, so that when the other guys came back, they would find their forgotten sandwich. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
Woman wants to take a photo. A couple of years ago, my colleague and I were in the midst of getting our stall at a local Christmas market set up, a few days before it started. After waiting in a queue of vehicles to be allowed on site, we pulled up in the Land Rover with a large trailer attached, jumped out and started to unload. Before we had a chance to start carting trolley loads of stuff to our stall, a woman marches up to us and asks, "Can you back up the vehicle? I want to take a photo of the reflection of the Abbey in the puddle you've just parked in." After taking a moment to realize she was serious, we politely replied that no, we couldn't. We have a very small window of time to unload. We have a trailer that is a pain to reverse and several vans have since parked behind us. Clearly, she wasn't used to being told no, told us she hoped we had an awful time at the market and stormed off. We still laugh about it at the workshop to this day.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.
A 10-minute favor versus €1,000 bill. Once, at a company where I worked as an architect, I used the company laptop's Photoshop to make my daughter's birthday invitation. Took maybe 10 minutes. My boss saw it in the recent files while we were reviewing a project together and told me the computer was for work only. I just said okay, because, well, what else was I going to say? That same week, I traveled to another city to survey a building. I did everything with the tape measure and laser the company provided. When I got back, he asked if I had already downloaded the photos because he wanted to see the inside of the building. I told him I hadn't taken any photos since my phone was personal. He was furious on the inside but couldn't show it because months earlier I had asked the company for a work phone and they had refused. The next day, a brand new Samsung appeared on my desk, and off I went again to the same city to take the photos with the company paying for flights, hotel, and all the doubled expenses.
Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. Petty neighbor pretends I don't exist, blasts loud obnoxious music at 7:30 a.m. I just moved from a very densely populated suburb to the rural swamplands where everyone has 3+ acre plots. This is important to establish the physical distance between myself and the issue. The issue? The family to one side of my land has a plot roughly half my size. My house is at the back left corner of my lot, while theirs is curbside on the front right. I was woken up this morning by a loud banging. I thought someone was knocking hard on my door because it was relentless and loud AF. I get up, get dressed, and walk outside. Nothing. Then I hear the obnoxiously loud bass line of Spanish rap music, the amateur skill level beat that 10 million of those songs all share. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 boom. Again, our houses are several hundred feet away. There is no excuse for me to be hearing anything from his lot, and vice versa. I had previously tried to introduce myself to these neighbors. The father was mowing the lawn a few days ago, and I tried to go over to say hi to him. He gave me a dirty look and didn't bother to turn his lawnmower off. This family already disliked me because my builder had to kick his kids off my land. They had been using it to ride dirt bikes and did not stop even when my home construction began. At one point, they trashed, threw garbage, and toilet papered the house when it was still being framed. The construction crew lost a day's work to it. There are still clear paths from their property to mine where they rode. This morning, I went to his door and knocked on it to ask him to turn it down. They ignored me, so I took my truck with an upgraded sound system plus sub, parked it on our property line, and proceeded to blast Raining Blood by Slayer for 15 minutes. I turned it off 15 minutes ago, and have been enjoying my silence ever since. Guess he doesn't like my music either? Subscribe. The paint looks fine. Obligatory, this isn't my story, but I was present for it. Years ago, I worked for a well-known chain of transmission shops. The owner-manager, we'll call him Jim, was a decent guy and great boss. We were also pretty successful. He insisted on keeping the shop clean, and a commercial was even filmed there. The outside of the shop is painted a patented red, white, and blue pattern, while ours was very faded. The company is supposed to repaint them every few years. Despite Jim putting request after request, corporate insisted it was fine. They suggested he could repaint it at his expense, if it was so important, so he did. Jim went to the paint store and bought several gallons of the cheapest, ugliest brown paint he could find and paid us out of pocket to paint the outside. I mean, this was the color of Then he waited. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, corporate called in a huff. The shop is supposed to be red, white, and blue. Jim reminded them he was allowed to paint the shop at his own expense. They never said what color. Within a week after that, a crew was sent out and we had a pretty new paint job. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Jim's the manager. Man's brain is braining at 100%. Hey y'all, I'm new to this. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. Seatmate in a flight complained that I started eating my special meal before theirs arrived. Apologies. English is not my native language. On long flights, I pre-order a special meal online because I am vegetarian. On most flights, the flight attendant brings the special meals first and then start the normal meal service for the rest. On my last flight, a perfect stranger sat next to me and told me that I was rude and inconsiderate because I started eating my vegetarian food before their meal arrived. They said that it was basic rule to wait until everyone in the row got their food and that I ruined their flight. Their face was red and rolled their eyes several times. I stared at them. This is next level entitlement, right? We are not eating together on the same table in a restaurant. Hey y'all, I'm new to this. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. AITA4 asking my roommate to replace the groceries she keeps borrowing. I live in the hostel and I share a room with 2 other girls. One of the 2 girls, Leah, keeps taking my food. She takes small things like eggs, butter, seasoning cubes, biscuits, and juice, but she never replaces them. At first, I brushed it off because she said she would pay me back. It's been months and she hasn't replaced anything, but she keeps taking. Yesterday, I bought groceries and labeled them and told everyone I would appreciate it if we respected each other's things. Leah said I was being selfish and stingy over basic stuff. I confronted her directly and she told me I should just buy in bulk since we all share anyway. I told her that's not how it works, and if it continues, I'll have to start locking my locker. Now the room feels tense, and the other roommate says I could have handled it more peacefully. AI Tay for calling her out about the groceries. Top commenter. If she's not replacing what she's taking, then she's not borrowing, is she? She's stealing TA. Her solution is you should buy even more to share, and she still doesn't pay. Where do I sign up for this deal? Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. Entitled lady thinks cafe outlets are her personal property. I, 25 male, was working at a local cafe while waiting for my wife to get off work. I had my laptop plugged into the only available outlet by my table. Some random woman came up holding her phone charger and asked me to unplug my laptop so she could charge her phone. I told her sorry, I was working and needed the battery. She immediately huffed and went, "It's just a phone, it only takes an hour, you can wait." I told her no, I had deadlines and my laptop dies fast without charging. Like seriously, it was 5 years old and won't even work for an hour without charging, though I now have a better laptop. She didn't take that well. She literally reached over, tried to pull my charger out of the wall and said, "Public outlets are for everyone. You don't get to hog it alone." I stood up and told her firmly not to touch my stuff. A barista saw what was happening and came over. The woman immediately flipped the script and told the barista that I was hogging electricity and refusing to share. The barista just looked at her and said, "Ma'am, he's a paying customer who's been here for hours. You just walked in and haven't even ordered anything." She stormed out saying she'd never come back to such a rude place. Honestly, good. The cafe deserves better customers. Next time I'll bring an extension cord just for these bees. Hey y'all, I'm new to this. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks. No overtime. No problem. I work maintenance for a fast food restaurant, and when I started working maintenance, I had a verbal agreement with the general manager that she would retroactively approve all my overtime because we were only allowed to have 2 maintenance people, and one of them was the owner's son, who didn't do his job and we couldn't fire him. Things were fine the entire time she worked there, and our store often scored the best of all the owner's stores during inspections. Eventually, that GM quit, and on day 1, her replacement told me she would no longer approve my overtime. I had her send that to me in writing, and from then on, as soon as I hit 40 hours, I would stop showing up for the week and turn off the work phone, which often happened 3 to 4 days into the week. Now our store was opened 70 years ago, so things break often. The first week the walk-in broke, but I was already at 40 hours, so I didn't know until 3 days later, so we had to waste all our frozen product. And the next week the fryers stopped heating, so we couldn't make most of the stuff on our menu. Then we had a surprise health inspection, and the store got red tagged. That was the final straw. Owner was going to fire me, but after he talked to the old GM, and I showed him the email from the new GM, he fired her. And my original agreement with the old GM is now part of the terms of my employment. Okay, hold up. So you mean to tell me this poor man is literally keeping the entire restaurant from falling apart, and the new GM's like, no more overtime? Girl, do you want fries with that bad decision? Hey y'all, I'm new to this. Support me by following and subscribing. Thanks.